we're just in the beginning stages of this industry.
In reality, like these 7 to 8 years that you're talking about from like 2018, that's not a long time in genetics.
We are getting there so much faster with the fallow deer. It is absolutely amazing. Our 2-year-olds are as big as our 4-year-old. I mean, who would have ever thought last year we'd have had a 450-inch plus 2-year-old?
So many people talked about, because there was such a what people said, a bubble in the fallow industry, and they're like, well, I'm not going to get in and I'm too late. And I'm like, now's the best time ever to get in.
There is a wow factor when you see these big bucks, and there's also a competitive nature amongst hunters. And the shooter market right now is absolutely on fire because no one wants to go back to shooting a 3-inch palm fallow deer. But we've got to have new blood in this game. We're just in the beginning stages, as we talked, and so we have to continue to bring new people in.
What is Bullwinkle Bash, and why did you start it?
We put it out there, and the response we got was just unbelievable. It's a way to bring these breeders together, and it's turned into this monster event. This Bullwinkle Bash we're having is going to be huge, absolutely huge.
Before we get into today's episode, we'd really appreciate it if you'd take a second to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. Right now, only about 40% of the viewers are subscribed, and it's completely free. Every bit of support helps us continue bringing on great guests, sharing important conversations, and educating more people about this industry. Also, we recently started dedicating social media pages to the Droptine Studios Podcast. Instead of filling our main pages with podcast clips and behind-the-scenes content, we'll be posting all of that on our new Droptine Studios Podcast accounts. So if you want to see sneak peeks, episode clips, behind-the-scenes content, and more educational moments from the podcast, make sure you follow the pages linked below. Now, let's get into today's episode. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about everything from the exotic industry, fallow industry, Bullwinkle Bash, and many more things about our industry. But today we have Lance Clawson. So Lance, thank you for coming onto the podcast.
No worries. This is going to be fun.
Absolutely. So I know a little bit about your history and background, but can you share with the viewers what you have done for work before you got into exotics?
Oh boy, here's the list. Okay. Yeah, no, we can have some fun with that. Well, I originally was, came from a marketing background with sports marketing. So back when right out of college, I actually sold wine, and I learned a lot about wine, but that was one year. I actually met a gentleman named Jim Host, and he controlled all of the NCAA marketing. So anything to do with the Final Four, anything with the NCAA, he was in control of that. And I actually met him in the press box at the University of Texas versus, I believe it was Mississippi State game. And we got to know each other, started talking. I was a young guy, and he goes, come to work for me. So the rest was history there. I immediately, a few months later, went to work for him in Austin. It was probably the most fun job you could imagine as a 25-year-old man at the time. I was sitting on press row at the Final Four with Rick Pitino. I was, you're at every event that you can imagine. My expense budget was actually bigger than my salary was. So you're flying all over the world. It wasn't a big group, but it was called Host Communications at the time. And my station was in Austin. And then we had, along with that, several schools, University of Texas, Florida State, Notre Dame, all the premier schools. And then it kind of extended into certain things with the Cowboys, with the radio networks and stuff. And so it was a fun media time back then.
Man, I got one thing on that real quick. So yeah. I never understood why people liked podcasts so much.
Yeah.
But especially back when you were doing that, someone compared it to talk radio.
It was. This was talk radio back in the day. This is essentially
what this is.
100%. And I still have great friends that do that today. Craig Way, he's the voice of the Longhorns. He has a great show. It's AM. It's typically AM radio anymore, but they're really taking off of these podcasts, and things are syndicated. Hunting and fishing shows that we used to have live, they're all syndicated now, or all a podcast. And so this is the old version. This has actually been around longer than you think,
right?
Because this is old AM radio right here.
Absolutely.
So, but man, it was a fun career. I wanted to stay closer to home and get married, and it's just like, okay, what are some options? And so we created the Longhorn Network at the time. Not the Longhorn Network that everybody thinks about. That came along a few years later. But I was able to stay in Austin and work for Clear Channel Radio. It was, good Lord, it's been a number of things. I think it's iHeartRadio today. But one of the fun things that we did that I really enjoyed was they turned me loose on from a marketing standpoint with all of the football games or baseball games. And the number one thing I remember, there was a couple of things. When I first walked into the University of Texas, I said, I want to put a Slotsky sign in the baseball stadium. And this is the, by God, University of Texas. You'll never see a sign in this stadium. Well, we got it done, and the rest is history. Now you go over there, and it's a multi-million-dollar operation. Then the associate athletic director named Chris Plonsky, they hired her. She's a fantastic lady. She came in with all kinds of ideas, and her and I were on the team bus for the OU game. And we're sitting there looking at the crowds, and her and I are talking, and she's like, what do you think about all this? And I go, it's sold out every single year. Why are we messing around trying to get sponsors, big sponsors for the Bluebonnet Bowl or the Cotton Bowl itself? We don't know who's going to be in it. This game is sold out every year. Let's sell a title sponsorship to this game. If it works, let's go to A&M. Let's go sell Auburn, Alabama. Let's go sell Florida, Tennessee. And the rest is history there. And that all developed from one little bus ride, from all the traffic sitting there at a Texas OU game. And so I believe it was Southwestern Bell was the first sponsor. It's either Southwestern Bell or Dr. Pepper, which I believe is still the sponsor today. But man, was that revolutionary for the college football world.
Absolutely.
And college sports in general.
Well, that's one thing I love about asking about history is you never know. You know, we know each other from the wildlife industry, but being able to hear your background's extremely cool.
Oh, it was fun. It was fun days. And so, I stuck with that for a while, and I actually was able to retire at an early age. And when I say retire, I work harder today than I've ever worked. But I retired from the media business. I was able to purchase, I wasn't much of a partier so much. I was always investing my money or doing little things, and everything I have is pretty much self-made, but was able to buy, with my partner, Aiden Lassiter, the Interspace Cavern. And it was owned by a bunch of wealthy people. My grandfather was running it, owned 10%, but we bought everyone out. And sometimes when you got a bunch of wealthy people, they can't get along. They have to have a board meeting to change a light bulb. And but we were able to purchase that. And so now I'm just a caveman and a goat farmer. That's why awesome. I tell people. But it's fun, the fallow industry and the animal and the exotics I know we're going to get into, but something I've always loved, been in for a long time. And, I do it more for the life. That's not what I do for a living. However, I do respect the people that do that for a living. You know, my partner, Jason Milligan, that's what he does at Cross Canyon. I mean, that's his livelihood. So I don't take it for granted at all, but it does allow me to do things sometimes that other people can't afford, not necessarily afford to do, but can't really do in order to, they have to keep their program, and it just lets me be a little more loose.
Right. So what was the first exotic you ever bought?
Oh, well.
Or was it whitetail?
It was whitetail. Marty Berry got me into whitetails. I mean, way back in the day. And I mean, you see all these bucks today, but this was, I can't remember what it was. I had a good friend that I met with Ford and South Texas Ford, and I became the South Texas Ford spokesperson and promoting lifetime licenses, really with Parks and Wildlife, et cetera, but with that South Texas Ford. And his best friend was Marty Berry at the time. It was, Fred Trudeau and Roy Schuster were partners with Marty, and they were Cola Blanca. But I got to go to Marty's place, and I saw a buck named, the real wide Honcho, I believe, and treble hook. And it was just like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this. And through college, I worked on the King Ranch with my buddies. And so, 135, 140 inch deer were walking around all the time, but not 27. Back then it's 27 to 29 inch wide bucks that scored 200 inches were not.
Right.
So it was just absolutely amazing. But that was probably the first time I got into it. And then James Bonds, I think James. He sold me some black buck quite a while, into after that with my first ranch that I'd bought near San Saba. But that was it. And then it just trickled. It was just a trickle effect. I'm like, well, I want some of that. I want some of that. I need a little bit of this. And before you know it, I think it was 361 acres. And I had a pivot on it, fortunately. But my dad was like, man, there's tails are hanging outside the fences. There's so many animals in here. And I couldn't stop. It was like an addiction. So, but it was a lot of fun.
Man, that's great. And then when did it ever become more of a breeding program than just purchasing because you like the animals?
Well, it was, I really didn't get into the breeding. The breeding side was from the whitetails, but I really didn't get into fully breeding the whitetails or into it until I'd say around 2009 or 10 maybe. And owning Interspace Cavern, it's so funny. Jason Milligan owned the Ace Hardware store there, and we were clients of theirs. And, he figured out, hey, there's a breeder in Georgetown. And I was like, and we had never met. But we started, I think the first deer we ever bought at an auction was a Bambi yardstick doe. And I don't think there was anything on the bottom. And I think we paid $10,000 or something for it. But then it was just it went downhill from there. And then, of course, we started getting into it. And it was so funny. My partner, we bought all these bred does. And I mean, they had their babies, and the fall came around and everybody was showing off their bucks. And my partner goes, "Where's all my bucks?" And I'm like, "Well, we bought bred does." He goes, "Well, I can't wait. It's time. We got to get some bucks." So we started, looking around, got us a gladiator son at the time, I believe, from Vernon Mosley. And then we started, had our relationship with Jason going, and that's when Frack Daddy and Pump Jack and some of those deer came along. And then, of course, fast forward a little bit, 2015 to 16, we started seeing the writing on the wall with some of the CWD stuff that was coming out. And I told Jason and Aiden, my partner in Caveman, I said, look, I'm gonna try something different. I've got all of these guys coming to my booth, and they're wanting to talk exotics because we had Big Mac, which was a huge Uriel. We had our Ibex. But that was really kind of all we had. But I was getting so much business on the whitetail side and having so many questions because of the exotics, because of those exotics. And we got into those. I mean, I'm jumping all over the place here, but we got into the Uriels and the Ibex because we wanted a petting zoo at the cave. And so you look into petting zoos and it's like, okay, sheep and goats. And I started doing the breakdown, and I'm like, well, the hardest, the most expensive part about this is the feed. Yep. And it's like, if I'm going to feed a $50 goat, it costs the same amount as to feed a $5,000 goat. Let's be the kings of the $5,000 goats and the $5,000 sheep. And of course, today they're worth a lot more than that. But that's how we got into that. So anyway, going back to the TDA, booths, et cetera. I had been trying since 2010 to have a registry, to have my animals, registered, and had gone back and forth with Nadar at the time. And I was ready to get into the fallow side because I look at it and I say, okay, what is an animal that's similar to a whitetail, but different? Right. Always different. And I'm sitting there going, okay, there's 3 different colors. All their antler conformations are different. Let's take this fallow to the next level. And a key to that was the registry. We had to have the registry. And so
what year was this?
This was in 2017.
Yeah.
But I'd been trying to have the registry for the Ibex and stuff since 2010. I went back and looked at my old emails and texts and stuff. So we had been trying for quite a while, and we were just getting nowhere. It was just whitetails. It wasn't worth it. They actually told me, I actually came up with the money. They told me it was going to be, they being Nadar, about, I think it was $20,000 at the time to get it started. I'm like, I'll do it. It's going to be worth it. And so it was, I believe, 2017 that I had met with them again at the TDA event, and I was just frustrated. They were just frustrated. It was, I got nowhere, and I understood it from their point. No one else was coming to them. It was just me. But I do say this, Charlie Seal, the old executive director with EWA, I owe him a lot because, he came up and I was frustrated. He grabbed me by the shoulders. He goes, "What's wrong?" And I go, "Charlie, I've been trying to get a registry started since 2010 for my exotics. And if I'm going to take these fallow deer to the next level, I got to have a registry." And I walked it through. And I said, it's going to take, I've got the money. And he says, "Keep your money," put his hand on my shoulder, "Keep your money. We're going to get you a registry started." And I think it was 2000, it was ready or pretty close in 2018, but 2019, I believe, is when it really came about. And then it was off to the races from there. You have to have that. You have to be able to track your genetics. You have to be able to trust, what you're breeding. So that's a long story to get into it, but that's kind of how the registry was, I guess, was started. And then of course now, we're into a registry for everything, and which is good. That's how you, if you're going to get to the next level, whether it be dogs, horses, whatever it is, you have to have that registry.
Well, I remember because in 2018, I went to the EWA and I told them I want Droptine to be in front of it. And I just went full time after we sold our ranch. And I was like, yes. Hey, if this is going to be it, I was like, I'll leave some parts out of it. But I was like, I want Droptine to be the person when people think about registry. Because again, you need to promote them.
That's right.
You need to have a picture of them, a video, whatever it's going to be. And I was like, and because they released fallow and red stag at the same time. And so I went in and I was like, I want fallow, like I'll give y'all a $10,000 credit on each one of these if I am able to be the person in front of this.
Sure.
And it took a while to get in and to get going with it because it was more so the back end of that point instead of what the deer were going to look like, or at least promotion. But yeah, it's come a long way. I hope they give hamsters a registry, because then someone's going to call me to take pictures of hamsters. But anything that they have it just adds that much more value.
It takes all the guesswork out for the most part. I mean, they're still perfecting it. I'm not as involved as I used to be with that side of it. The science part of it is just like, man, I'm trying to take a step back. That's just something else I don't need to necessarily put my hands on, but it has come a long way. And it's just necessary. You have to have it, especially, the thing that with the female side of like the fallow deer, we have to have it so we can prove these does. We're just in the beginning stages of this industry.
100%.
I mean, there were three of us, and it was only at the time, it was just, it was me and Jason, it was Green and Trevor with Keeper Ranch, and it was 3S. There was actually no one else involved. Colby, of course, with all his genetics, it wasn't his thing when we first started.
When he started, he went to Nadar, didn't he?
I think he did, but and that was his thing, and I mean, we have to thank that guy today for the genetics that are out there, and of course, Nash has his herd now over at NT, but Colby really, was the foundation, or Jill Woods, she was the lady, man. She had the Heart Bar, I think, genetics, but Colby's the one from the management side that did what he did with it. Right. I'd been in it for a while. We went out and it was hard to find inventory, and we were able to, being on the leading edge of it, go out and try to buy the best that we could at the time. And what's fun about, I guess, our herd, and I hear this all the time, is we kind of built it from scratch, and we have some incredible deer that was built from scratch, and it's not that old. I mean, we're talking about 2018 realistically, and it wasn't until 2020, 21 5 years ago, before it really took off. And in my opinion, that's when the industry started.
Yeah.
So
because it's, even going back to your partner earlier, because even when I had whitetail and people were buying does, I told them, well, hey, this is where you should start, but there's no sex appeal to a doe because it doesn't have any antlers.
That's right.
But it's the same thing with these fallow, is like, in reality, like these 7 to 8 years that you're talking about from like 2018, man, there's a That's not a long time in genetics.
I've never seen anything like it. Back in the whitetail days, we started, like I told you, in the mid-90s or whatnot, you'd go in a guy's pen and you could pick out 2 or 3 good bucks out of a pen of 20 or 30. 10 years, 15 years later, fast forward, half the pen was there. And then, of course, today you have a problem picking out 2 bad ones.
Right.
We are getting there so much faster with the fallow deer. It is absolutely amazing. Our 2-year-olds are as big as our 4-year-old. I mean, who would have ever thought last year we'd have had a 450-inch plus 2-year-old? I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. And, we'll get into Bullwinkle's Bash, but Bullwinkle was ahead of his time at the, going into that. And so there's so many Bullwinkle offspring out there, but we're considering going back on top of some of these good doe with him and with Thunderstruck, because what they did with does that weren't proven back, in the day,
right,
or just 5 years ago is just amazing. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm really thankful that people back then, because coming from the hunting background, anything that we saw that was huge like that, we were like, oh, we got to call Frank. We got to call this guy because he was our number one hunter. He always wanted the biggest and the best. So I'm thankful that people were smart and didn't just shoot everything that was big, because that projected the fallow industry is being able to have people like Bullwinkle. And so from my side of it, if you're going to be putting it back onto some of these proven does now, that begs the question for me is, how much semen inventory do you have? Well,
Bullwinkle's syndicated. There's not just a ton, but there's enough. We're splitting the semen up right now as we speak. There's some issues with some of the facilities. And I'm trying to be as fair as possible. I'll have that all done, but you get different collections. And instead of saying, one guy will say, well, I've got an account over at Champion. Just give me all my stuff over at Champion. And I wish it was that easy, but you want to give everybody, we don't know what's the best semen anymore. And so sometimes, we're just giving all the different collections that we've taken over the years, splitting it up and trying to get the numbers right. But there's going to be, there's at least, 60 straws out there.
Oh, good.
But you divide that by 8 owners, and that's not very many.
Right.
But it's enough to where it's not like Express was, where there's only 2 left or whatnot.
Right.
But, getting it back to a little bit about what we were talking about with the bucks, what the hard part are these doe, because it's just like with the whitetails, the brothers Dream Buck and Ground Zero, if you remember them, Dream Buck daughters are just sought after, and their daughters are the producers. And then on the other side, on the flip side, I think Dream Buck only had 1 good son, Walking Tall, I think, and probably had some more. But then on the flip side, Ground Zero, his daughters weren't that great, but his bucks, every buck that buck threw was amazing. And so, we're trying to figure that out on the fallow side now. What are they going to throw? You may have a buck that doesn't throw very good sons, but don't give up on that deer. His daughters are just could be unbelievable.
And that's what's crazy, because even once you have a daughter, you're still 2 years out from seeing what her yearlings look like.
100%.
And so for the fallow industry to come so far in 7 to 8 years, that's what I hear. Because going back to the whitetail, like you said, like it is a long time, or what I used to tell my ranch clients is like, hey, you don't know if you screwed up for about 8 years. Right. Like until you were walking around, you're going, man, what are these 160s? Like I thought we bred the biggest and the baddest if you do that in the pasture. And then you're going, well, you kind of have to start over. You might not have done your homework, but it's amazing to see,
it really is.
And because even having a buck fawn and doe fawn out of the same doe might be a blessing.
Yeah. And some of these deer too, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves as well, Austin, on some of this stuff. I mean, we're so spoilt. We think that all of our 2-year-olds should be this monster 2-year-old now. And it could have been born late. There's so many different reasons, and it's hard for them to catch up. And, some of our clients say, well, my 2-year-olds don't look as good as yours. Well, I've been doing this a while. Where are you? Are they better than they were? Is this some of the biggest deer you've ever grown? Well, yeah, these are the biggest 2-year-olds we've ever grown. Well, then you're on the right track.
Right.
So don't give up on that. And you can't just automatically, unless you go write a big check, you're not going to jump into the equality game right off the bat. You've got to pay your dues a little bit. And it comes with those does. It has to, and finding the proven does. And we're really, the registry is obviously is the key to that, but we are just now finding those top end does, and they produce every year.
Yeah.
They really do.
Well, even that's what I've said on here before is not all baseline does are created equal.
No.
Is because, you can go have someone that has been breeding and say it was Colby before he was tracking on paper, but like his baseline does were not the same as one caught on a pasture or on a helicopter job.
No. I mean, you couldn't, RC Red 2 is a baseline doe. And that's you ask Trevor Williams or Nash or any of those guys, and they'd give it up for that deer.
Right.
That deer is that doe has everything she touches. I think she's in at least 12 pedigrees of breeder bucks, if not 20. But that's a very special doe, and that's a baseline doe.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing too. When we were expanding into the certified herd and working with out of state folks that were in the whitetail side, which is one of the reasons that I wanted Jason as my partner in the fallow deer too, because he has all the whitetail clients, and I knew he was bringing those guys in to look at bucks, and I wanted them to go, nice bucks. Wait, what is that? What in the hell is that down there? And those guys that came in and that were coming in looking at the bucks were like, I want to go down there first. I want to go down there. And then they'd come back and look at the whitetails. But yeah, the whole process of growing these big bucks today, we have more knowledge on genetics. We have more knowledge on food nutrition. There's just so much more to it. Our AI success, we're still trying to perfect that, by the way. I mean, as of today, I think I have 2 or 3 more days to go. I think Jason and I looked and we're right at 60%. But we do a lot of testing and stuff too. So I think I missed one of the questions or jumped across, but this industry is just getting started.
Absolutely. And that's what I've touched on this before, but I'll say it again because the truth doesn't change, is so many people talked about, because there was such a what people said, a bubble in the fallow industry. And they're like, well, I'm not going to get in and I'm too late. And I'm like, now's the best time ever to get in, because 5 years ago, your best doe in your pen is no longer your best doe, but you only have so many pen space. So eventually you're going to have to sell does you don't want to, only because you have does that are doing better pedigree wise. Well,
this is, when I talk to Jason, and all of this is, everything's supply and demand. But when you look at the history of mankind, I'm a caveman. Okay. So I look at it from a caveman perspective. There's a wow factor, okay, with a big buck. I don't care. Men are going to chase women, drink beer, and hunt. That's what we do. That's what we do. So there is a wow factor when you see these big bucks, and there's also a competitive nature amongst hunters. And the shooter market right now is absolutely on fire, because no one wants to go back to shooting a 3-inch palm fallow deer. And there's not a single guy that has come. I've had so many guys come to the ranch and say, I don't need a buck. I don't need a buck. And then that wow factor kicks in when they see one of these big deer, and they're like, how much?
Yep.
How much is that deer? It's kind of the same thing with the typicals and non-typicals. It was so funny. Everybody wanted a clean and still wants a clean deer. And then when they get into the pen and they see this one with big kickers and a big wide one, they're like, how much is that one? It's like, oh, well, you're not interested in that one. You said you want a typical. But it's that wow factor that just kind of overcomes. And,
absolutely.
And that's where we are. And again, we got a long ways to go with these fallow deer.
Yeah.
This isn't an emu. There's no wow factor with an emu. So
with your marketing background and being in the exotic industry now, what's one thing the exotic industry can do as a whole on marketing? For nearly 60 years, the Exotic Wildlife Association has united ranchers, breeders, conservationists, and the wildlife professionals committed to protecting exotic wildlife and preserving the exotic wildlife industry. EWA membership gives you a strong voice in legislative advocacy, valuable industry connections, educational resources, and access to programs that support wildlife conservation and responsible stewardship. Join a community dedicated to the future of the exotic wildlife. Learn more and become a member today at myewa.org. Spring Creek Outdoors is an all-inclusive habitat and wildlife management company that works with landowners in every ecoregion of Texas. Their biologists have over 55 years of combined experience improving the furred, feathered, and finned resources that have you driving to the ranch each weekend. Macy Ledbetter and the team at Spring Creek Outdoors will save you time, money, and gray hair. and they will help your property maximize its full potential. They may be found on Facebook and on the gram or at springcreekoutdoors.com.
Well, when you're growing an industry, I told Ken Yancey, the executive director of this, the other day, I'm a big supporter of EWA. I will always be a big supporter, but I'm an industry guy first. And so I kind of started this off with you. We have to let new people in. The marketing will come. We all know how to. You're the best at it. You're one of the best at it. You know the promo items that you put together for us, the banners, the ads. But we've got to have new blood in this game. This is such a young, we're just in the beginning stages as we talked, and so we have to continue to bring new people in. And to do that, Jason and I have sacrificed some of our best genetics, and that's what I was saying. Since I don't do this for a living, I've given up animals that I shouldn't give up. I would like to see us sell better deer in the EWA auctions or any of the auctions. I can tell you this, I have a problem. Nash has a problem. Keeper has a problem. We can't buy deer unless it's got to be really good. And so we need new blood in this to expand it. And the rest will take care of itself. We can market all we want on social media. We can put the best videos, the best bucks out there. This Bullwinkle Bash we're having is going to be huge, absolutely huge. But we have to sacrifice a little and give up good stuff. The most enjoyable part about an auction for me is buying. If I'm selling a deer, I'm usually pretty sad. I sold a deer to John Ollie. That guy is really doing some great things, but I think it went for $72,000 or $75,000 at in the last fall auction or something. And I should have been happy, but that was one of my best deer. And so it's like, okay, man, you sit back and you go, man, that fawn's going to be worth 50. What did I just do? But you have to do that. You have to let some of those go. If you're happy about selling your doe, it's probably not a very good doe. But I have more fun buying deer because there's excitement on changing genetics up. There's usually a reason why I would buy a deer. But we have to get to that point. And there's something for everyone. Marketing a deer may not be just the biggest deer. I mean, once people get to know this genetics, Jason and I were talking about this. We've got prime time and showtime. Well, showtime's nothing like prime time is. He's the largest 2-year-old ever and probably maybe the largest 3-year-old this year. Prime time's going to be a good deer. He ran himself to death. He's still a big deer, but you've got to have that market for the up-end guys. And then you've got to have that market that you don't need the best deer on a deer that maybe is one pedigree long or just has a top. And so, but that's where, if you want to put that mom in there, if you want jewels in your pedigree, it gives you an option to do that. And so you've got to promote it that way, but you've got to have a story for it.
Right.
Unforgiven and Excess back in the day with the whitetails.
Yeah.
And then Unforgiven died. Excess may have been overall scored better, but just wasn't as pretty of a deer. And so you've still got that bloodline, and they did well. So Coors Light, Keystone, but marketing is, you have to put an effort into it. These partnerships are a great way to do it too.
Yeah.
So, we can get into that, but everyone needs to do their part, and word of mouth and just, getting it out there. I can't tell you how many guys I've sold to that, they have their own niche. Jimmy Anderton over at Long Time, he's got his own little group of guys over there that no one else knows about. And he does such an incredible job of selling those guys and getting them to the next level. So there's a lot more to it. I don't think there's one answer.
Right.
It's why do you catch more? I asked one of my favorite fishing guys, why did you catch, what's the one reason you catch more fish? And he goes through 10 little things. And he goes, if I catch one more fish because of each one of these 10 little things, I've caught 10 more fish than you. So it's a lot of little things.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've talked about making a whole separate company. We've joked about it. I don't have the time or money to do it, but being just for people going, well, we'll never work with Droptine. It's like, okay, well, here, go work with this other company.
Yeah.
And then I still own it.
Exactly. No, 100%. Because I get it. When you're the best at this, and you've got guys that they want to do this for a living, but they can't.
Right.
And so they've invested a lot of money in deer and to go out and spend, to get the best might be tough for them. Whatever it is. I'm not saying with you. I'm just meaning anything. And so there's got to be something there, or we try to help the new guys in any way that we can. We're bringing new guys. Every EWA event, we bring a whole table full of new guys. If you've ever noticed, my table's full, and you probably don't know any of those people there. And so, and we share those with the rest of the group. Some people will say, "Why are you sharing that with Nash?" Or "Why are you sharing that?" Why did you introduce John Ollie to Keeper? And it's just like, because we need them to what's best for them, not what's best for Lance and Jason. That's going to come. We've got our own story. We do our thing, but we've got to expand this industry.
Yeah,
and it's coming. It's coming.
And that's what I've told every organization we've ever worked with, because we do like 20 to 30 shows a year, and I've told every person, especially in the animal auction side, is you need more buyers, not sellers. You need more people coming in that are going to be sitting at the table, raising their hands, buying animals. Because then, when you either deliver it or they come out, they're like, well, if I'm going to come pick it up, I might as well buy something else.
That's right.
I might want to make it worth my time driving out here. And then, as you're saying, they're going to get into the industry. They're going to be the people that are the next up and comers. They're going to need to sell inventory, which means we need more people coming in. So it's always good to try to do that. But that's where I've said these organizations need to see value, because there's not an immediate direct return on doing like a PR campaign to like say, here's who we are, here's where we're at, here's a really cool story, come to our event.
That's right. No,
and like something along that line to like get them with their heart, not their wallet. But eventually the wallet part will come. I
got so mad at, I don't know if it was TDA or DBC one year. They were telling me what lots I had to put in because they wanted the best, because they wanted their commission. And I said, look, guys, I gave you a good lot, but this lot is for me. I need to grow my business. I need to put a $3,500 animal in the sale. And then I'm going to turn that $3,500 animal into a $50,000 animal, buy or sell.
Right.
And so I remember Benny Boyd, Cody and them, I think I was one of the first deer they bought, and it was, I think, $2,500 or $3,500. Well, shortly after that, he's not going backwards.
Yep.
I think he ended up spending $2 million or something that year. It was something crazy. Not with me, but in the industry. And so you've got to have that and be smart about it. And sometimes these organizations need to step back from, just because it's been this way for 50 years doesn't mean that's the way it is today.
Right.
And have more of a business outlook about it.
Oh, for sure.
And, we get into this deal where you get a lot of guys that are in it for themselves, whether they're on the board to protect themselves or whether they're in the industry for themselves. We'll also, you also have a lot of guys that'll be in this business, and they'll say, hey, we're in the business to sell, not to buy.
Right.
Well, if I've got a guy that's buying deer and I think that it's undervalued in a sale and he's a good client of mine, even though it might not fit my program, I'm going to bid on that deer.
Right.
I'm going to buy that deer if I can. And I'm going to give something back. It's not all about take. So, I think we're the only ones, Jason and I, in our auction lots, talked about this, and we said, we're going to guarantee our deer. We're going to guarantee them bred. And if they're not, we're going to figure something else out. We're either going to give you your money back, or we're going to give you another deer. And, we've never had to give our money back. Everybody, I think we had one deer that there was an issue. I think it was Bo. Obviously, Bo Thompson.
Yeah, Bo Thompson.
And anyway, I ended up giving him I said, I'm not going to give you a doe fawn. I'm not going to give you a buck fawn. We're going to flip a coin. And, but I gave him a really good, at the time, well pedigreed. I hope he's doing well. I need to call him and follow up on it, but I gave him a fawn. And, so, it's just, we've got to make those sacrifices as big breeders as well.
Right.
So.
Well, I think too, that's, now that you mention that, because I also like doing things different, right? Like even the guy that was kind of my mentor in the whitetail and everything, like Randy Corporon, well, he always did marketing different too. Like his name was Hidden Antler because he liked to go shed hunting. Well, then he did a whole deal at, I think it was TDA. He put a banner up and a magazine ad in and said, if you find this antler in this room,
I remember that,
I'll give you either like 2 does or a breeder buck. And he shoved it into like how Purina or Record Rack used to bring big pallets of feed. He shoved it under all the feed when no one was in there. And the reason found it is the kid was trying to feed it, but he was small. And he fell in and something poked him and it was the antler. But and it didn't hurt him, but like he was like, Dad, look at this. And they were like, you won. And they ended up taking the buck and it became a breeder buck and it was super cool. So that's what I like with marketing.
Absolutely.
But let me ask about that. That posed a new question to me is because I noticed in your lots, like, because we used to do the EWA catalog, so I would read through them and help them with them. Sure. But you did always have like little kickers in your lots. So it was either a guarantee or a credit or whatever. Is that a marketing strategy? Is that an incentive?
Yeah, I try to, no matter what, I try to separate myself from my competition and just little things. And it may just be the smallest thing in the world. When we had the buck draft together with the EWA, after, we did the buck draft and then EWA, we wanted to do it as a team. And that's hard to do. Right. So, but I would put in there, anybody that buys this buck lot is going to get a $2,500 credit to the ranch. Right. And if there's somebody sitting there going, man, I can't decide between this buck or this buck, they're going to probably pick my buck. Right. And so it's little things like that. I was looking back, I sent Ken Yancey a picture the other day of, I think it was 6 years ago when we were here in Bernie out at doing the EWA convention out here at
Tapatio.
At Tapatio, yeah. And saw some of my old banners, and so many people got mad at me because I had a video and a banner. But what happened was they kept coming to me for a sponsorship or a print ad twice a year. And I'm like, man, I'm out of the country. Can we just do an annual sponsorship? Let me do this. I've got a University of Texas and an Oklahoma sponsorship that I've got. I'm going to work on a gold package. That's what we'd call it, the gold package. Me and a guy named Kent Cohen, we had Sendero Sports Marketing back when we were doing some race car stuff. But anyway, so I sat and drew this thing up and said, I'm going to give you this much money. And they're like, okay. And so I had big banners behind the stage. I had a video going. I had some kind of promotion going on. Well, it kind of made a few people mad, saying, why can't we do that? Why'd you give that to him? Well, they didn't give it to me. I paid for it. Right. But we were just creative. And if you'll come to someone, I don't care who it is, you can go to the Dallas Cowboys. If you've got a great idea that they're not doing, do it. Yeah. Come up with it. And
anyone listening, if you want to give Austin Prayton and Droptine Studios a bunch of money, and we'll come up with the annual package.
Absolutely. So, think about, the creativity side and whether it's a business deal or a marketing deal has always been something that's been fun for me. Yeah. And it could be something as simple as driving down the road and seeing some billboard and just having a great idea, like, hey, man, I should do this. Anyway,
it's fun because last year we were going to do something where we were going to go buy like 500 rubber ducks, and then we were going to put like little tape things on the bottom of them. Sure. Yeah. And we were going to give away magazine ads and a photo shoot and some little things like that. Or you'd open up most of them and be like, oops, sorry, good luck. Yeah. And, but then they did the rubber ducky race, and I was like, I don't want to confuse people. And so we didn't do it, but yeah, we'll have to come up with something creative again. But
you'll figure it out. Look at some of the games that are played. Look at golf tournaments. Golf tournaments have changed. I talked to Chris Fritz about this, and a lot of these guys, a lot of these 4-man scrambles and stuff are going away. They're just, everybody's coming in at 20 under or something. And so, there's different things. And instead of selling mulligans, you sell a shot within 100 yards, or you sell a 10-foot putt. Right. If you want your putt over, it's a 10-foot putt, and people like doing that kind of stuff, but people also like to have a chance. Right. And they like to have things, our buck draft that we do, they like it when it's a win-win. So whether you're marketing, our buck draft, the way we do it, and, I catch slack on this from some of the bigger breeders because I'm leaving money on the table. Well, I don't know that I am. I don't know what the market's going to, do this year. We got to get these new people in. But when you buy into the buck draft and you're buying 50%, if that buck's not a certain size by a certain age, then we give up our 50% and they can at least get all their money back or more. So it's little things to be creative to make it a win-win. Think about your clients. Think about what they want. Think about what is going to make them happy if the worst situation happens.
Right.
If a deer dies, that's the worst pretty much. And there's nothing worse than someone new getting into the business and losing an animal. I really can't stand the old days where it's like, all right, they open the trailer and an axis jumps out. Okay, it's yours now.
Yeah.
And it's, some of that stuff, that's fine. And those guys do it for a living, and I understand that. But if you don't have to do it for a living, take care of your customers.
Right. Well, I think that's the thing is when it's a one-off sale, kind of have to do that because you're not making enough money.
That's right.
And I think that's one thing people don't understand either about Nash in general is the reason he got so many of those big axis bucks is because he bought a ton of them that turned out to nothing.
Right. Sure.
And so the first call you're going to get is one of your biggest customers. It just makes sense. Same thing with the EWA sponsorship. Why did he get that? He spent more money.
That's right.
It's plain and simple.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, you have to put it out there. You have to work.
Yeah.
We're in a society where everybody wants to be given. And it's just not, I tell my boys all the time, I've got a teenager that's going to be a senior. If you work hard, there's always going to be a place for you in this working world.
Absolutely.
And have a good attitude. So, but you do have to work for it, and you have to spend a little money if you really want to be. You can't complain about, competing with Nash when he's out there spending all the money he's spending and putting all the effort into and all the expenses that he has. And you're sitting back over here and you've got 10 fallow deer that you
bought for $600 a piece.
Exactly. And you're trying to build it from scratch. I mean,
right.
Golly, I mean, that's another topic that we can talk about, but I hear that all the time. There's so many breeders out there that have 200 or 300 fallow deer that you've never even heard of.
Right.
And they still come out of the woodwork today. And, they think they're going to buy a buck and change their stuff. And it might change one or two here or there, but man, sell 200 of those and get you 50 good ones.
Right.
You're going to make a big difference.
Absolutely.
In a hurry. So, but you have to invest in it.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think that'll tie into a little bit earlier, but before we get too far on another subject, I think the only thing better than working is networking. And so what made you want to, or let me rephrase that. What is Bullwinkle Bash and why did you start it?
I don't even remember why we started it, other than he was getting a little older and we were wanting to have, to hold an event. The events are not there's not as many events as there were. There's one TDA event, I believe now. There's no DBC. Texas Top 30 pretty much went away where we were pushing our exotics. And so we needed another event to promote ourselves. And so I got with Jason and said, why don't we have something like Lone Hollow did? And I'm just going to call it, and let's do it around Bullwinkle because he's getting old. Everybody wants a Bullwinkle straw. Everybody knows who Bullwinkle is. I mean, if you go up north and you try to sell them the biggest deer in the world, they don't care. They want Bullwinkle. And so let's take off on that and let's have a Bullwinkle birthday party. This is when he was born. And so it just makes sense, in June. And let's take off from that. And man, we put it out there and the response we got was just unbelievable. And so we said, okay, we've created a monster here. And so last year, I think we had, well over 100 to 200 people. I'm not sure. This year we're expecting a lot bigger crowd. And I said, here's what I want to do this year, Jason. Fallow breeders need this. We need this. Sometimes we don't feel like we get the representation we need or get the exposure that we need. We're trying. I mean, we have social media, but that's about it. This is going to be, it's open for anyone in the exotic industry because there's so many whitetail guys or exotic guys that are it's on the tip of their tongue. And if we can just get 2 or 3 more, I mean, you don't realize how valuable 2 or 3 people are. You don't 100%. Need 50 or 100.
Well, what did you say about Benny earlier? He put $2 million in his first year.
Exactly. So and this year, people love to win prizes and they'll come. I mean, we've got guys that come from Mississippi, Ohio, North Carolina. They're going to be coming from everywhere. And so Jason and I are basically saying, hey, let's have a silent auction. And we're going to take all that money and go buy prizes just to give away. So we're going to predict what that is. And before we knew it, people were donating. I mean, Trevor really stepped up, and and WRI Tractors. I mean, they stepped up. We're giving away as a door prize a Kawasaki mule, and so those are the type of things that started coming around. I mean, Zach over at All Seasons is always there for everybody. If you don't know that guy, good Lord, he is such a good young man. But we're giving away feeders, and these are not anything we're selling raffles to or anything. It's like
just door
show
prizes.
up. These are going to be door prizes. There's going to be some of them are going to be in a raffle as well. We've worked it where we're going to go buy gas cards. $50 gas cards. That helps. You get people coming from a long ways. We may give something bigger to someone. We're probably giving have an out of state raffle for some, the people that come from out of state. And that'll be a separate, not raffle, but a drawing that they'll win a door prize from. The guys in the buck draft will have their own prize. But this is going to be, we need to have some fun with this.
Right.
And we need, I don't need to, we need to share our clients. I might not have the best thing for them. If they're loaded with Bullwinkle stuff, then they need to go to Nash, or they need to go to Jake, or they need to go to Trevor or something. But it's a way to bring these breeders together, and it's turned into this monster event. We're almost not prepared for it. It's going to be, we've had 2 more tents and I think 150 more chairs and lunches, and Purina's the sponsor, but so many people are donating straws of semen and different things. There's going to be a lot of prizes that we're giving away, a ton, but we're trying to bring these guys together.
Yeah.
And, we have to grow these small guys, because again, you're not going to go backwards. If you go backwards, if all of a sudden, you're buying a breeder buck, even if it's a lower end breeder buck, let's say it's a $20,000 breeder buck, which may not be low end to some people, but I'm just calling it that.
Oh, for sure.
You breed your does to it. You're not going to all of a sudden just go buy some deer at an auction or Harper sale and breed to your does that you have. You're going to want to continue to stair step that up and have better deer.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's it's funny too, because Grayson, our other media guy, he was trying to explain to his family last year, because we went on a shoot and we were already booked when the dates came out, and I was like, man, I was wanting to go to that event.
Oh yeah.
And then I think they got rained out, and they're like, hey, we're going to have to push these back a couple days. And we were driving from Stephenville, and I was like, Lance, is there room for me and Grayson to show up?
Yeah.
And he was explaining it to his parents, and like, you're going to a fallow deer's birthday? And he's like, kind of.
Yeah.
And so, I'm excited. We're going to be there, and
good.
We're going to show up. And I think immediately after, we're going to Oklahoma for like a private owner giraffe event that we're sponsoring. Oh. So it'll be giraffes. A long 4 days.
That's going to be a long 4 days. Well, this is going to be, it's funny. Everybody goes, what time does it start? And I'm trying to push them back a little bit. But I mean, last year, I think the first person was at the gate at 6:30, and I don't even think we were there yet. But
and
yeah,
to be clear, 6:30 a.m.
Yeah, a.m. Correct. Yes. Yeah. But we'll start that event probably around 7:30, doing pen tours. Everybody wants to go see the bucks. And then there's going to be, I'll tell you, we're going to have, Lalo's coming in. We're going to actually show people. I want him to show people under a microscope what good semen versus bad semen looks like, explain the AI process. AI is a big deal. To get to the next level of any industry, the top of it, you have to be able to AI. Right. And it has to be successful. And so, he's going to show people what to look for. He's going to explain why. He may say, I look at everything. I sit there, I'm assigned, that's my job during AI, is I do not leave the AI guy and the microscope. I'm there and I'm making decisions instantly. He may tell me that a doe doesn't look great, and so I'm not going to waste, a high dollar straw on that deer. I'm going to put a straw of my own in there, and I might put a full straw in there. But you've got to be there. That's the difference. I mean, 2 or 3 of those does, when you're only AIing, some of these guys are only AIing 12 or 20 deer. That's a difference in 20% sometimes on your success. But he's going to show us what good semen looks like versus bad semen. I think we're gonna get into learning how to identify parasites under a microscope. Every person in the animal industry, if they've got a facility, should have a microscope and know what to look for parasites. Yeah, they have. Otherwise they're sending it in, and that's okay too. But if you've got a ranch manager or doing it yourself, you need that. It tells you so much. But there's going to be, we'll talk about fawn care. Everybody always asks about nutrition. We're going to talk about feed. You can go into the barn and see what we're feeding. And of course, we're going to have pin tours and the buck draft. And I expect it to be over, start around 7:30 and be over around 2:30 or 3, where everybody can go home. It's a 1-day event, but it'll be fast and furious. And I think every 10 or 15 minutes, we're giving a door prize away.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a lot going on. And I'll give shouts out to Chris Stewart over at 3S. I think Jason suckered him into being our MC, since I'll be probably giving pin tours and stuff, but he's going to come in and we're going to have a lot of help for this, but it's going to be a fun event.
Good deal. So one thing I wanted to see is you mentioned the buck draft. Yes. I know we tried doing one at EWA, or we did one at EWA, and then the second one. So what is a buck draft for anyone listening? So
we started the buck draft in 2020 when COVID hit, and No Brainer was actually the first buck taken in the buck draft. And I mean, that turned out for a whale for those guys, for Jeff and those guys.
Yeah, for what, 12,500 or something for the entry?
I think in the entry fee back then it was 12.5. Today it's 10.5, and a portion of that money goes back to EWA. But once they saw it again, it was kind of like the signage thing. Well, why does Lance get to do that? Well, it's my event, my deal. But okay, we're going to open it up and we're going to allow everyone to come into this, and we're going to run it through EWA. Well, we just people weren't getting their bucks in time. And if you don't know what's in the draft, you're not going to buy in.
Right.
And I would send 6 or 7 in, and, no one was sending anything else in. And I get it. Again, I can afford, I'll be honest with you. There's some guys this last year. So it didn't happen the last year. And so Jason and I committed our 7, and we had a mini buck draft last year, and almost every one of those deer are $50,000 deer. So everybody hit a home run. But that also scares the big guys. But again, getting back to, I don't do this for a living. It allows me to do that. And it's an overall plan in the long run, still on the deer, but it was great. Anyway, it wasn't working out. Sometimes when you're herding cats, if one person's doing it, it's a lot easier than trying to get a lot of people to put this thing together. And so Pete when he was president, called the buck draft off, and we did our own, and it sold out in 20 minutes, but there were only 7 bucks. Right. And so we took a hard look at it, and we had a very large percentage of bucks last year. I think 20 of our first 25 fawns were bucks. And so it was the perfect year to say, we're going to do our own again. And we're going to take some chances, and we're probably going to have to spend $100,000 on a buck to buy back if we want it, or it's going to cost us, but we still own half the deer. And so we just looked at it as let's grow the industry.
Right.
Because you get these guys that no one really, if they came to me and said, I want to buy this buck, I probably wouldn't sell it as a yearling.
Right.
You have this perception that a 1-year-old is cheap, and it's not. We don't know what that deer is going to be. It's usually your best pedigreed deer. And so I guarantee you go over to Nash's or Trevor's and say, I want to buy this good pedigreed yearling, and they're going to laugh you. They're going to laugh at you. And I get it, because they've invested a lot and it's their best. But we are taking a chance to bring in these new people to where we're hoping that they don't go backwards, and they're going to continue to be in it. They're going to have fun with it. It's a very low risk opportunity. It's more of a risk for me than it is for them.
Right.
It really is. Because I'm risking, the $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 deer that I'm selling half of for $10,000.
Right.
So on the flip side, we very seldom have, sold a shooter buck for less than $8,500. So you don't have much to lose. But anyway, it just gets back to herding cats, and so we've decided to take it back and do it ourselves.
Yeah, because I think I also want to touch on this, because I'll get asked, because we go to so many places, is they'll say, hey, if I partner on a buck, which we don't have to get into this, that's a whole other podcast, because they'll say, what is included? Because some people think you get 50% of the does, some people think, and it's strictly just the buck. Everyone does their partnerships different. But if someone says, hey, I want to, because even if they heard, man, a $20,000 breeder buck, that's cheap. Well, I look at it and go, well, yeah, but I've also been around, I'm 3rd generation exotics. I know partnerships. I've done this. But if someone's going, hey, if I'm spending $50,000 or $100,000 and I only get 25 or 50% of a buck, How do I make my money back? Protect your investment, preserve your records, promote responsible wildlife management. The Exotic Wildlife Association Animal Registry is working in conjunction with the Veterinary Genetics Lab at UC Davis. This provides secure, professional record keeping for the exotic wildlife owners and breeders across the country. From documenting pedigrees to ownership, to promoting herd management and conservation goals, the EWA Registry is a trusted resource for our industry. Whether you own one animal or manage an entire ranch, the EWA Animal Registry is here to help. Learn more today at myewa.org. That's myewa.org. On average, our social media management clients save 30 to 40 hours a month. Yes, we're good at our job. Yes, we can make you look really professional, but overall, we're saving you time and hopefully making you money. But if you would like to be consistent in social media and look professional, make sure you reach out to us today at droptinestudios.com and just let us run your social media.
Well, it's so I can answer that in a couple of ways. Back in the day, let's say 6 years ago, if you bought into a buck, $100,000 buck, let's say it was that cheap, and you bought 50% of it, you were selling offspring by having a pedigree deer. You were selling 5 does and making all your money back, and now you own the buck for free. I mean, that's what happened. I bought into Big Papa with the same theory, in that my offspring are going to be extremely valuable. Now, here's what I do preach to my clients, and I told a couple of my good clients this yesterday. If you don't have the good does to put on them, you have no business buying a $500,000 deer. If you don't have the good does to cover and put on them, this is, back in 2020, we could take Bullwinkle and breed it to anything, and the offspring was worth $20,000. You can't do that today. You have to have pedigree. You have to have production. You have to have proof that deer's going to produce, be a good deer.
Right.
And so it's a different story today. Me buying into a $400,000 or $500,000 deer, if it fits my program and I've got the does to cover it, and I'm selling an average of, $25,000 does, even to ranches, some of the best, then it doesn't take me long to make my money back. And so especially, it's got to be a pretty special buck for me. But let's say you're buying 25%. That seems to be the thing now. And the reason that is because the owner wants control of the deer on their place, and they can control how many does are being bred to it, et cetera. And it's not being moved. And it's so easy. Some of these lease bucks that we do, you'll find out later that they've allowed buddies to bring deer over, or maybe they've sold spots or done some different things. And that's okay. But once they reach a certain limit, it's detrimental to that buck. It can be.
Always.
But anyway, so that's what you're seeing a lot of is 25% partnerships, to where you're getting basically X amount of straws to use. So if I'm sitting there going, okay, I'm going to go buy 5 straws at $3,000 a piece. Anyway, that's $15,000 I can put into that buck.
Yep. And
so, okay, I might spend $50,000 and I get 5 live breedings. Oh, well, that's worth another $20,000 to me. So all of a sudden I'm over halfway there by spending $50,000, and I have that every year. Yeah, the buck could die, but if you're dealing with the right partner, they usually kind of take care of it. There's some risk. There can't not be any risk.
Yeah, it's wildlife.
But exactly. But the 25% sponsorships, they let people come in, and you have to evaluate those 25% sponsorships more. Let's say you had a $200,000 deer and you're selling 25%. That 25% might be more than what it would take for you to buy that deer.
Right.
You might value that deer on a partnership more of $250. But if the person bought it outright, you're saying if he bought it outright, it'd be $200. But if I'm selling 25% sponsorships, I want $75.
Right.
So
it's like
because you're letting someone in with a premium buck. So
yeah, and I was going to say, it's like anything else. The more you buy, the less you can do it for.
Correct. Yeah.
And so if you're going to piecemeal it, then the owner should get more benefit from it, which it may be an extra $10,000 or whatever. And that's where some people go into it as well. Is like, hey, especially in whitetail, when people got into whitetail, they were like, well, hey, what's your marketing plan? Like some people would be like, hey, are you going to promote this buck? Is he going to be on the sponsored ads at TDA, or are they going to do whatever? Well, I want my logo next to it.
Yep.
Just because I'm new, I want to be associated with Caveman. I want to have this. And so I want my logo next to yours.
Absolutely. You have instant, marketing ability. You're instantly on the board. And, and we write a lot of checks back to our partners. Anything that we sell, we write, if we sell semen out of that deer and it's a partner deer, we write a check.
Yeah.
They get 25% of it. Partners are, we've had guys come to us and say they want to give us a deer to partner, but it's got to be the right deer,
right?
Just because of the marketing. And, it's funny to say, but some guys might get a little better deal sometimes because you see the big picture. If Nash or Trevor, Trevor's pretty good at selling semen and promoting his deer. And if he's coming in and he wants, to be a part of a buck, I might cut him a little better deal looking at the overall picture, right, and looking at the overall business performa. That's another thing. When you buy a deer, you're not buying a deer, you're buying a business. I sold Big Jake for, 200 is a Uriel, a lot of money. And people go, how do you get that much for your rams? Well, it's not a ram. I just sold a business, right, that I had pre-sold 20 babies per year, like clockwork every year, pre-sold with a 2-year waiting list. So you're buying a business. And so you need to look at it from a business perspective. Anytime and you need to go, you need to go to the farm and look at the deer. Yes. Don't say, send me a picture. If you're wanting to spend $100,000, you're nuts.
Yeah.
It's like telling a car dealer to send you a picture and trusting him, So, and a lot of people do that today. I know we're in a different world, but you really need to take the time and invest and go look at the rest of the pen. Go look and see what this guy's producing. Yeah. If he's got 1 or 2 good 2-year-olds that you're seeing on Facebook all the time and the rest of them are crap, well, you need to think about it. So.
Yeah, I've always said that as well, as telling people, hey, go ask questions. Like, go to them, like, yes, make sure it's worth your time to drive there, because even you driving here, you live relatively close, but it's still your time driving here.
Sure.
You got to drive back. The same thing with pin tours. Either try to schedule it and go look at 2 or 3 places in a day, make it worth your trip, but then you're seeing place to place immediately versus,
absolutely.
Well, I saw their bucks 4 weeks ago, and with fallow, that could be huge, like a huge different antler size and growing out in periods. But people just need to do their homework. They need to ask questions like, who's the mom? How many animals have they produced? And so that's one question I want to ask you is, what, with these buyers, whether they're new or old, what questions should they be buying if they're going to spend, 5-6 figures with people?
Well, they need to go to the ranch. It can be a little different for us. We will probably not, it can be the biggest deer on our farm. And if it doesn't have the right pedigree, we may not be promoting that deer. If it's not proven. There again, if it is, yes, but you need to be asking pedigree questions. Obviously, if it's a 2-year-old, it's kind of hard, but I want to know what that mom's produced. We get into this anchor doe talk, and it's so key. And if it's got red 2 in the bottom of it, I almost don't care what it is. I want to be a part of that buck because I know that buck's probably going to be big. So you need to know your business, and asking the right questions can be not asking any questions at all, just coming to the farm and say, talk to me about your program. And Jason's so good, and we try not to hide anything. When we first got into this, it was like no one would tell us anything. We just jumped right into it, and it was we learned by trial and error, especially on the AI side. And before we knew it, Dr. Gorley and all those guys were calling us. What are y'all doing? What are y'all doing? What's the process? But you have to ask. Don't be afraid to ask stupid questions. Don't be afraid.
We have a deal at my office. There's no stupid question as long as you mean it.
That's right.
You can be a dumbass and ask a stupid question,
right?
But as long as you mean it,
that's right.
That's the specific thing. And if anyone ever makes you feel bad for asking a question you genuinely mean, don't buy from them. Don't give them a penny.
That's right. That's right. It's we get a lot of color questions, and there's a lot of questions that I can't answer. Me and Jason were talking about this morning. We have a chocolate buck over a chocolate mom, and we have a white fallow buck.
Yep.
And it's just like I can't answer that question right now. And so I can't guarantee you're going to have white offspring, because we'll have, guys will ask that question and my answer is no. I can't guarantee that. But ask any question you want. Ask about, you need to ask if, you need to look into the sire. If what's the sire? If it's a Bullwinkle son, he's got several, great breeders out there. If it's a buck you've never heard of, how much is that really going to be promoted?
Right.
And I would always ask this, this is kind of odd. Lance, would you buy this? If there's another deer out there that you're asking, I do not like pricing anybody else's animal. I refuse to do it. But, ask guys, ask yourself, would Lance buy this? Would Jason buy this? Would Nash buy this? Would Trevor buy this deer? Would Jake buy this deer? And it depends on what level you're trying to get at. If you're trying to be at the top level, and you don't have the does, then think about that.
Yep.
Be sensible about your program and don't get too, we can talk ourselves into buying anything, especially with the wow factor, when these big bucks come out. But be honest with yourself and give yourself good expectations and put a business plan together.
Right.
So,
and that's the hardest thing. And I say it on probably every other podcast is like all these people, because most ranches, I would say in almost 15 years, there's more of these breeders that are coming up, but most ranches I've been to had some other business at least help them get started that they owned or did whatever. And for whatever reason, they get into their ranch and all business sense goes out the window. And someone told me it made sense when they said it. They said, well, they probably bought the ranch to get away from work. And so that makes sense, but I hate it because this is my job. Like this isn't a hobby marketing deal. Like I need you to put your business hat on for a minute, but I'll have to start my meetings like that. Like, hey, is this a write-off? Hey, is this to be like, well, Caveman made this video. I want to make mine better. Okay, well, then that's not a financial decision. That's a show-off decision. And so we have to ask those questions, which is fine, but ask questions. Yeah. Well, the best thing that you can ask is if you're coming to my farm and I don't know who you are, tell me about you. Tell me about your facility. Tell me about the genetics you have. Tell me how many you have. Tell me everything about you. And I would ask if I were buying from you, I would say, put yourself in my shoes. What would you do with this package that I'm giving you? And, and try to trust in you. And don't just take one person's advice. Go and meet with the big guys. Meet with them. Meet with some of the new guys that are really making a name for themselves. Go meet with Doug Heimer. Go meet with John Ollie. Go meet with those guys. And they're great people. And just say, here's what I've got. And this is what I've got to work with. I don't have a big budget, and people are afraid to give you a budget sometimes because they think you're going to take advantage of them. But the best thing you can do, and fidget a little bit. If you've got $50,000, tell them 30, whatever, if you feel better. But give some indication and say, here's my realistic, here's what I have to spend, and here's what I have to work with. And if you'll do that, this is a good industry. There's some good folks in this. Yeah. They're typically going to sit there and tell you, this is what I would do. Yeah. They'll say, this is where it'll fit, or, hey, that's not enough. Like if you had an extra 20, you could do this, but and that's where it's the same song and dance in our industry is people will say, what does this cost? And I'll say, well, what's your budget? Yeah. Because I can make a $500 graphic, or I can make you a whole catalog, or I can make you a whole website, like depending on what you're wanting to do with it. But if your budget's $600, you're going to start over here. Your budget's $6,000, it's over here. And we've done $60,000 projects. And it's like, those are not on the same level, but they're trying to achieve the same thing. So if you're just honest. Yeah. Well, if a guy comes in and tells me he's got $500,000 to spend, but his bowl over here is a bunch of baseline does, I'm not going to sell him. I'm not taking that money. Right. We're going to say, look, you need to start off with you need to build a baseline of, foundation. You don't need to be you don't need to be buying the best semen. You don't need to be buying the best bucks. You've got to buy as good of pedigreed animals as you can, and then take those doe fawns and sell everything else off, including your buck fawns even. Right. But work backwards from that. So we have to be, as breeders, as top breeders, we have to be honest with our people as well, as honest as we can, and help those people out. Right. We want, it's just treat people the way you'd want to be treated. So, absolutely. We didn't have that help. We kind of shotgunned it. And, but anyway, that's what I'd recommend. Don't be afraid to ask questions and put that person into your position. Yeah. And cause that's where we recently just had someone on talking about it. And, well, actually, it was John Ollie. I don't want to give too much of information away, but he told me at first with his website, but he had the inventory. Like he's got so many animals, especially in other exotics, but he built it because he wanted to show what all he's invested in. And then he was like, Austin, I was at Nash's restaurant the other day, and he was like, hey, man, I've got to apologize. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I had one customer that found me through my website. And we're not even paying for marketing. It was just organic.
Right.
And he was like, I won't say his business, but he's like, he spent multiple six figures on my other exotics, but he found me looking for fallow.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, because he had the inventory, right? Like we got another call yesterday, and this guy just bought 12 does and one spike, and he wants a website. And I was like, okay, well, what's your long-term goals? We can manipulate it, but people just have to ask questions.
They have to. Absolutely.
And so one of the questions that I have is there's all these people with pin infrastructures, and they may have had whitetail. So they already have the pin infrastructure, but there's been more and more rules. There's been more and more regulations with whitetails, and there's been more and more CWD positives. So is this a good time for people? I don't want to say jump ship because whitetail's king. I love whitetail.
I do too. In Texas, it especially in North America, it is, period. In the world. But I can tell you this, there's a couple of good friends of mine, some big whitetail breeders, and they are now talking, we're getting out of this. We can't take it anymore. And we are going to take that money and put it into fallow. I don't know where they're going to get them all. But now is a good, I go by supply and demand. Everything is supply and demand for me in business. I go by what I hear. I go by the response of who's coming to the Bullwinkle Bash. And I have never, this is the hottest year I've seen yet. We've got the shooter bucks. I mean, Jake sells so many shooter bucks. I don't think he has any for sale anymore. I think Trevor's out. He's coming to us, and he's got a lot of deer. And these guys are shooting these deer for a lot of money. Other states are asking for shooter bucks. And so the end, you've got to have those hunters. But I can tell you this, we had some calls. I've had at least 10 people from out of the country just reaching out to us saying thank you. And what they're thanking us for is they're getting 3 times what they used to get to shoot their fallow deer.
Good.
And just because of the buzz of fallow deer. And people are educated, they're seeing these deer, they're seeing the potential of these deer, and they're beautiful. I mean, they're just beautiful. We're not shooting 3 to 5 inch palm deer anymore. We're shooting some incredible wow factor animals. It's the wow factor. So, and there's some changes that are coming, hopefully, that I'll be able to share with you on another podcast for this international stuff. We're really investing in the industry, and hopefully it'll pay off for the whole industry, not necessarily just us, but the industry.
For sure. Well, if anyone asks, don't call me. I don't know what he's talking about. So
no, we haven't talked about it.
So, yeah, I think it's a really good time, and I've been saying it, but I think people think I say it because I make money off of marketing, but like I genuinely believe right now, because I don't know specific numbers, but I know last year Nash sold like 80 or 90 stalker fallow bucks.
Yes.
Jake sells like 100 plus every year, and there's more and more and more and more demand every year.
Well, problem I have with my partner, he's awesome. Jason's awesome. Once they're 4, you won't see hardly any 4-year-olds in our pen anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, we're selling these bucks at 3 years old. If they're not what he wants or what we're looking for, then, we're trying to get younger, bigger, faster. And to do that, we're believing in our 2-year-olds and our 3-year-olds. And don't get me wrong, we have 4-year-olds in our pen, but we don't have a pen full of them. These guys are shooting these 3-year-olds, and they're paying good money for them. And so we can't keep them. And now, whether they're shooting them or not, we have guys that come in and want to buy a shooter buck, and I think they're taking them back and using them as a breeder buck because they're the biggest buck they've ever seen as a shooter buck.
Right.
And I don't have a problem with that. A lot of breeders won't do that. I don't have a problem with it. It's like you buy that buck, you do whatever you want to with it. I have if I have a problem with it, I'll put stipulations on a particular deer. Other than that, do what you want. But the market right now is extremely hot. I mean, this, all of this stuff with Parks and Wildlife, if they would have spent as much time on the screwworm as they did this CWD crap.
I commented on Texas Parks and Wildlife's post yesterday about that. And I said, if y'all spent all this money and stuff that you were chasing on CWD on screwworms, all of our people would be just fine.
Oh, yeah. So it's, and you know, speaking of the screwworm, Jason and I talked about this. It might really even help us pin breeders, because I think if it does become an issue in the field, people are going to go, I got to have a buck and I got to have it right now. And so I think the shooter market is going to be pretty solid.
And man, I'd be interested too. I may have you on. We're going to do a panel. But I had a phone call the other day and we talked about it, and we don't have to get in because you'll be here till 5:00. Okay. But I'll put this as a teaser, is I feel like with all the screwworm stuff coming up, where all the whitetail breeders are breeding for the best CWD resistant genetics. Well, if Texas Parks and Wildlife put a deal out that said like an 80% loss of fawn crop this year they're expecting from screwworms throughout the state of Texas, okay, well, how do you supplement that? In the 60s and 70s, they didn't have deer breeders to supplement it.
They did not.
So Texas Parks and Wildlife, what would be the best solution? A CWD resistant deer that has a codones that your science says is the best, and it's a CWD negative, release them into the wild.
Start working with us and stop working against us.
100%.
100%. Absolutely. And you know, that's come about, and you know, some of these big supporters of Parks and Wildlife that are pushing the agenda, they're about to come to a realization, and you're about to eat some crow, I think.
Yep.
And so we'll see.
Some of them
have big enough money where they're not going to eat crow. They'd let the world die before they said I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But
when that comes up and we do a panel, I'll holler at you and we'll have you on.
That'll be fun discussion.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think it's a great time for people to get into fallow. I think the stalker market is going to go through the roof because hunting is going through the roof right now. So yeah, if you're listening to this, get into fallow. Like if you can't grow a breeder, you can sell it as a stalker 100%.
100%.
And if not, call me. My ranches will buy them and I'll sell them for you.
Yeah, there's plenty of people out there right now looking for bucks. If you've got bucks for sale, I don't, you know, you post a buck on Facebook or social media and it's usually not there very long. But be realistic about your prices.
Right.
You know. So.
Since 1967, the Exotic Wildlife Association has supported conservation, advocacy, and education for the exotic wildlife industry. EWA brings together ranchers, breeders, conservationists, hunters, and wildlife professionals who are working to protect the exotic wildlife and preserve the industry for the next generation. EWA members receive access to valuable resources, legislative support, networking, education, and of course the EWA registry. Learn more or become a member today at myewa.org and follow the Exotic Wildlife Association on Facebook. Spring Creek Outdoors is an all-inclusive habitat and wildlife management company that includes exotic and native animals, fisheries, lake designs, construction, wildlife surveys, including helicopters and thermal drones, wildlife captures, state-issued permits, and wildlife tax conversions all over Texas. They have seen what works and what doesn't work on hundreds of ranches and literally millions of acres. No matter what your management goals are, the team at Spring Creek Outdoors can help you reach them. So find more information at springcreekoutdoors.com. Well, and even one person that I feel like I want to mention, Daniel was just there, is someone who's been breeding a long time, but now that they're getting more serious about it and promoting is Ruby Holler. Their deer have gone, look phenomenal. And Randy will send me little videos and I'm just like, God, they still have so much more growing to do. So that makes me excited for the guys who just did it for the stalker market for so long. And then now that he's getting serious about the breeding, which he has been for a long time, I don't want to make it sound like he's been breeding since like the 90s.
Sure.
But it is so encouraging to see people like that because Randy and his family are such good people. And now that we're helping be able to promote it. So it's a self plug, but seeing the deer that they're promoting now, it just makes my heart happy to be able to be like, damn, Randy, that's a good buck.
Well, there's two sides to that. The genetic side is working.
Yep.
That's what's really fun. And I tell guys this all the time. We're not, it doesn't work all the time. We're not in the whitetail side yet. We haven't been in it that long. But if you look around at the industry, it's pretty proud of the industry and what's being grown out there. It's amazing. I mean, guys like Dale Cole are really, they've got some great bucks now.
Yep.
Where, you get into it and you don't see those results for a while, again, especially if you're buying bred does. And if you're trying to create your own, and there's nothing better than the creation of your own big buck that you created, whether it be through AI or your own breeder buck, whatever, that's a pretty good feeling. Yeah. We can all go out and spend money if we have it and go buy one. But when you have your own, it's special.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I feel like we didn't even look at any of the notes of, we did a good enough job going back and forth.
Yeah.
But as we're closing, where is the Bullwinkle Bash event? I want to make sure people know where it's at.
Sure. Yeah. And I'll be promoting that quite a bit, but that's in, at the Cross Canyon Whitetails and Exotic Facilities. And Jason's place is in Holland, Texas, over near Belton, Salado. It's on June 20. It's Thursday, whatever that Thursday is. I think I've had some confusion, but I believe it's June 25th. Again, it'll start, around 8:00, 7:30, 8:00, but that's in Holland, Texas.
And you are right. I pulled up my calendar. It is June 25th, 2026.
It's going to be a huge event. And if you come for nothing more than the chance to win a Kawasaki or winning some great prizes, I mean, golly, Lee Hoffpowers, we've got binoculars and that guy gave us, we've got all kinds of stuff from him. Yeah. Los Cazadores, we got turtle boxes, we got Leopold binocular. I mean, there's going to be so many, and that doesn't even include all the semen and little things that we're doing. All the breeders have really stepped up with straws of semen and a lot of the different prizes we're gonna have there. It's really going to be a fun event, or I hope it is. I may be stressed out, but come talk to us. Grab me. You're going to have to, or Jason, or any of the guys. I'm hoping that all the big breeders will be there. They've told me they are. Don't be afraid to just talk. Don't be afraid to talk to them. Talk to Nash. Go talk to Trevor. Talk to Jake. Talk to Dale Cole. The success stories from guys like him. Talk to Jimmy Anderton. Mm-hmm. I mean, those guys. John's going to be there. John Ollie has some pretty good success stories.
Yeah.
But talk to all of those guys because they were in your shoes at one point. So
yeah, absolutely,
it really is going to be one of the better. Or probably the biggest fallow event in the world for the most part, where you can go and mainly talk fallow, see big fallow deer, and actually, open up and get to know your fellow breeder.
Absolutely. And we'll be there as well, myself and Grayson. So if y'all see us or see our truck, holler at us. But one thing we've been doing on the podcast is we will have the guest before you leave you a question without knowing who you are.
Sure.
And then you'll also have to leave a question for our next guest without knowing who they are. But
oh boy.
Your question was referring to like whatever it is, your personal work, your breeding program, whatever. If and when that works out, what are you doing and then what? So let me rephrase that. If and when what they're doing works, then what?
Well, probably continue to do what you're doing and believe in what you're doing, but you have to adjust for the times. You have to adjust for the screwworm. You have to adjust for bigger 2-year-olds, whatever it is. We're going to continue to do what's fun and adjust from there. I mean, that can be a tricky question that for me, I'm fortunate enough that I can walk away from this tomorrow and go fishing or hunting and do the things that I enjoy doing because I'm a hard worker and I still have the cave business. I still have the ranch business. But whatever you're doing, next on it is try to be better. I mean, I can't wait. Already we're seeing our bucks and I can't wait till next year already because the pedigrees are getting better.
Right.
So it's hard for me not to be excited about next year already. And in the different technologies that we have and what we're doing, like I mentioned, some of the things we're doing from an international standpoint. So I don't know if that's an answer, but there it is.
I love it.
So,
and then do you happen to know, or do you happen to have a question that you want to ask our next guest without knowing who they are?
I would just ask them.
Watch the next episode to find out his question.
Well, Lance, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I think it's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone at the Bullwinkle Bash, and I think this is going to be a phenomenal event, not only for the industry, but just getting everyone together. And also the food was great last year.
Oh, the street tacos were amazing, and I think we're going to do that again. We may even have some dice games on the side if we can keep some of those guys off the dice game.
If anywhere y'all go, there's you and Jason, there's always dice playing somewhere.
Jason was going to come in here and rattle some dice, and we're like, what is that noise out there? And he was going to come in with his dice, but no, it's always fun. But thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for everything you do with the industry. We always appreciate your knowledge, your wisdom, and your willingness to share it. So thank you for everyone for tuning in to the Droptine Studios podcast. Again, I'm asking that you like, subscribe, and share it. It's free. It helps us out. I can't even make money on YouTube until we get to 1,000 subscribers. So please make sure you subscribe, and thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.